This stone killed the most feared warrior on earth. But the story you heard in Sunday school, it left out the parts that make this impossible. The parts that turn a children's tale into one of the most sophisticated military operations in ancient history. These are the 6 things they never taught you about the fight that changed everything. You picture a flat arena, 2 men charging. That's not what happened. The Valley of Allah is a wadi, a seasonal riverbed carved through limestone. At its widest, 30 feet. At its narrowest, 10. Goliath didn't choose this battlefield. Saul's army did, and they chose it because they were terrified. For 40 days, the Philistine champion stands in this natural amphitheater shouting insults. The Israelites hear every word amplified by stone. Every morning, every evening. Psychological warfare before the term existed. But here's what nobody mentions. This terrain neutralizes every advantage Goliath has. His size becomes a liability. His armor restricts movement. His weapons require space to swing. David didn't just pick a fight. He picked the only terrain where a giant could lose. They told you he was big. They didn't tell you he was suffocating. Archaeological finds from the period show Philistine champion armor. Bronze helmet with forehead serpent, 5,000 shekels of bronze coat, bronze greaves. Total weight, 140 pounds, on a man already suffering from what modern medicine recognizes.
In 1 Samuel 17, Goliath is described as over 9 feet tall. These match the symptoms of acromegaly, a growth hormone disorder.
These are classic acromegaly symptoms, pituitary tumor. The giant was literally dying as he fought. Now add the heat, the Valley of Allah in late summer, 95 degrees, humidity from the Mediterranean. Bronze absorbs and retains thermal energy. Goliath has been standing in full armor for hours, shouting, adrenaline burning what reserves he has. The text mentions a shield-bearer walking before him. Not courage, necessity. Goliath's vision is compromised, his equilibrium failing. David isn't facing a healthy giant. He's facing a man whose own body has turned against him. You heard shepherd boy. You pictured a child with a toy. That's not what ancient shepherds were. Slingers were the artillery of the ancient world. Assyrian records show slingers killing from 400 meters. Roman military manuals devoted entire chapters to sling training. A lead sling bullet travels 100 miles per hour. Impact force exceeds a .45 caliber handgun. David tells Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth." This isn't bravado. This is a combat veteran's resume. He's killed apex predators with his hands. He understands terminal ballistics, animal psychology, stalking techniques. When he picks up the sling, he's not improvising. He's selecting his primary weapon. The text says Saul tried to give David his own armor. Bronze coat, helmet, sword. David couldn't move, he took it off. Not because he was small, because he was smart. Heavy infantry armor is designed for formation fighting. David is a skirmisher, a specialist, a sniper. David doesn't just refuse armor, he refuses to look like a soldier, and that's the strategy. Goliath sees no sword, no spear, no armor. Hebrew text says he disdained David. The word is baza, to regard as worthless, to despise, to treat with contempt. Exactly what David calculated. Ancient single combat wasn't just about killing. It was about demonstration. 2 champions fought and the winner's army attacked while the loser's demoralized troops fled. But David breaks the rules. He doesn't look like a champion. He looks like an insult. Goliath shouts, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" He's trying to reframe the encounter. Establish dominance through ritual challenge. David doesn't respond. He keeps walking. The silence is more terrifying than any answer. The text says David ran quickly toward the battle line. Not away, toward. He closes distance to slinging range while Goliath is still processing the wrong threat. By the time the giant raises his spear, the stone is already in flight. The forehead, the only gap in Philistine helmet design. The serpent ornament on Goliath's helmet, archaeological finds show it sits directly above this vulnerability. David aimed for the symbol of Philistine power. This isn't a knockout. This is immediate neurogenic shock. The stone doesn't need to kill directly. It needs to drop him. The fall does the rest. 140 pounds of armor, dead weight, face first into limestone. The text says David struck the Philistine and killed him. But there's no second shot, no sword finish. The fall kills Goliath. David just ensures he doesn't rise. The beheading isn't cruelty. It's communication. Ancient Near Eastern warfare requires demonstrable proof of champion death. David shows the head to both armies. The psychological effect is immediate. They told you David became king because of this fight. They didn't tell you this fight almost got him assassinated. Saul tries to kill David 3 times in the following chapters. The women's song creates political crisis. David has become more popular than the reigning monarch. The giant's death makes him a threat. David spends the next decade as an outlaw. The Goliath victory opens doors and creates enemies simultaneously. He joins the Philistines as a mercenary. He fights for the enemies of his own people. The boy who killed the giant becomes the man who compromises everything to survive. When David writes later, he doesn't celebrate this victory. He writes, "The Lord is my shepherd, not the Lord made me a warrior." The sling that killed a giant becomes the symbol of divine provision, not personal power. Archaeology confirms. Tel Es-Safi ancient Gath shows Philistine occupation ending abruptly in the late 11th century BC. A sudden destruction layer, the right time, the right place, the right evidence that something happened, something that started with a boy, a sling, and 6 things they never taught you. The next time someone tells you David got lucky, remember, the terrain was chosen, the giant was compromised, the weapon was specialized, the approach was calculated, the shot was surgical, and the aftermath was political. This wasn't a miracle. This was mastery. What other Bible stories have they simplified? Subscribe. The next one changes everything you thought you knew.